Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, virtual recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to Patron D&D, where platinum level patrons and I get together to play Dungeons & Dragons via Discord and Roll20. These Patron D&D games are not live streamed, but are recorded for your viewing pleasure. You can watch more D&D sessions, reviews, and crafting streams on my YouTube channel, read recaps at roguewatson.com, and listen to all of these shows with the Rogue Watson podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. You can join our official Discord server, invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Our music is by Kevin MacLeod, and we don't yet have amazing original character art because we don't yet have amazing original characters. This is session number 0 of our Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen campaign, published by Wizards of the Coast. And I'm going to introduce you, but normally I would do player and then your whole character spiel. We don't have that, so I'm just going to introduce players, but do give me a hey as I introduce you. I am joined by patrons Brandon.
Hey there.
CT.
Hello.
Dory.
Hello.
Genocider.
Hello.
Jared. Jason.
Howdy.
John.
Hi there.
Marcus.
Hey there.
And Morgan.
Hello.
We made it. All right. Now we didn't do a session 0 for the last patron game, but we are doing one here. This is a whole new world. I just realized we have so many people that the names in the bottom are literally in 2 different layers. I need to fix that. But this is a chance to kind of explain this slightly different world that is a lot of lore involved, but mostly just to help everybody create their characters. Also, normally we're not going to have this many players in a session. We normally have 5 players per session, but as this is a session 0, and those are pretty important to introduce for everybody who is going to be playing, there was no player limit on this particular session. So it's a chance for everybody to jump in, and we can all talk about this campaign. I forgot how to turn off the pop-up thing. Somebody help me. Is it under graphics? Nameplate and bar setting. No, audio and video. Video display. Avatar size. Names only. There it is. Okay, we got it. Let's start by going to the player primer PDF. This is something that has been given to all of you about a week or 2 ago, I think, which I created, and I've started doing this for my last couple of campaigns just to give everybody a good introduction to the setting, as well as any specific restrictions on classes or species or anything, as well as giving any cool like handouts and stuff. So this is the player primer for Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Over 300 years ago, the world ended. The history of Krynn is one of conquest and warfare. Armies of dragons, knights, and wizards clash over gods and territories. Like Greek mythology, the gods play active roles in meddling in the affairs of mortals, and dragons are powerful allies and enemies alike who rarely waste time idling in caves or lairs. Then came the Cataclysm. In a single day, the gods hurled a volcanic mountain at the holy empire of Istar, destroying the hubris of the fanatical empire that arose after the evil goddess Takisis was banished. The event killed thousands and reshaped large parts of the world. All gods and the dragons faded from the world and into legend. Many cities felt a disease and famine. The once stalwart knights of Solamnia were blamed for Istar's rise and fall. The elven nations shut their borders. The dwarves of Thorbaden withdrew to their tunnels. Nations of hobgoblins and ogres claimed whole regions at humanity's decline. But Krynn survived. Civilization has slowly rebuilt over the decades and centuries since the Cataclysm. As people rediscovered this new world, they had to live with a startling new truth. The gods were truly gone. Divine magic was lost. It is the age of despair. Of course, happens to be that we are transitioning into a new age, which you all will discover very, very soon. How exciting. So, restrictions of the Dragonlance world include the fact, or I guess I should say at the start, by the way, we are playing with the D&D 2024 rulebook. Specifically, just at the time of this start of this campaign, all we have as official published material is the player handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. This is circa May 2025. So we are only playing with the content from the player's handbook for y'all purposes, but Dragonlance imposes additional restrictions on top of that. So, for example, there are no tieflings. There are no, I don't know what else, Aarakocra. There are no Goliaths or anything. There's basically very Tolkien-esque species: elves, dwarves, gnomes, humans. In fact, dragons don't even exist, or do they? And then the one new one we have are kender, which are mechanically very similar to halflings, but personality-wise are very unique onto their own. And then classes, even though the Dragonlance book doesn't, the Shadow of the Dragon Queen book does not impose any restrictions, I am pulling a little bit of DM prerogative here and saying that I do want to play a little bit closer to Dragonlance lore at this time period, which means there really aren't any warlocks and sorcerers. The only arcane magic really kind of comes from wizards, with some exceptions, and all wizards are basically have to join this ancient order known as the Mages of High. I think it was the Wizards of High Sorcery. They changed it to Mages of High Sorcery, and they kind of basically police themselves. That's really how they get away with not upsetting anybody else. Is the wizards kind of take care of their own, and if you don't want to join their conclave, they brand you as a renegade and kind of hunt you down. Although they welcome good wizards, neutral wizards, and evil wizards, which is kind of interesting. All three of them work together as part of wizarddom. So you pay your dues, no matter which. You're always part of the union, and the union is good enough that everybody still joins it. And divine spellcasters aren't even a thing because the gods are gone, and you basically only get divine magic in the Dragonlance world from direct communion with gods. So this world has been bereft of healing magic, of clerics, of all that. I mean, you might hear about, somebody still running a temple or anything, but it was like, yeah, you're full of shit. Like, it just doesn't, there's nothing there. Everybody's a charlatan. So that hasn't really existed here at all. And then, for example, like a paladin in 5e, they made their power derived from their oath. But in Dragonlance, we kind of go backwards and say, no, it actually is derived from worship from a god specifically. So really, you're like a militant cleric, basically, as a paladin. So no warlocks and sorcerers. Divine spellcasters are allowed, with an asterisk that you'll find out why, basically, as we get into the Prelude stuff. And I think that's the main stuff when it comes to that. And then with backgrounds, that's a new thing in 2024. Remember that the background dictates a free feat that you get at the early level, as well as which stats you can increase. So the background actually matters a lot when it mechanically when it comes to your character generation. I think the only one I kind of banned was Acolyte for the same reason that nobody's really a cleric here, so it would be kind of a weird thing to be an Acolyte, but I said that you can maybe reflavor it if we want to do something different with it. And then if you want it, there are 2 new backgrounds in the Dragonlance book, which is basically if you want to follow in the footsteps of a Knight of Solamnia or as a Mage of High Sorcery. I think it'd be easier just to use the backgrounds that are already in 5e. In this case, Guard, Noble, and Soldier could all be just reflavored as a Knight. And then the Sage and Scribe backgrounds could be reflavored as the Mage of High Sorcery. So those are the slightly different ones there. And I think that's the main... Oh, and then character connections. So this is the one specific thing to the story of the campaign, is I wanted everybody, no matter what your backstory is, I do want you to have some connection to either a human adventurer named Ispin Greenshield, which I wrote some little blurb about him in the primer, and or the town of Vogler. Or I guess it could be just the region this is in, which somebody did helpfully circle it on the map, which is basically northeastern Solamnia on the north end of the map. Just so you could have some connection to basically the start of the campaign. But the campaign essentially begins and kicks off, which I did go ahead and share this information with you all, which is a note from Becklin Uth Viarin, who sends you a message, which I will go ahead and share this, and then we'll get to the character stuff, which is this. I am Becklin Uthvaharin. I have heard much about you from our mutual friend, Ispin Greenshield. It grieves me to share the news that our dear friend Ispin passed away peacefully here at his home in Vogler. May fortune and the old gods protect his soul. Ispin's friends are holding a memorial for him in the manner he always wanted. It will take place here in Vogler on the eve of the Kingfisher Festival. I write to ask you to do Ispin one last honor and attend. Should you come, accommodations will be available at the Brass Crab. Though the circumstances are sad, I am eager to meet you and through our memories to revel in the life of our good friend. So essentially what kicks off the story, or what kicks off your character's motivation, is you are traveling to this. If you wanted to be from this town or something, we could maybe swing that as well. But it honestly helps for the prelude purposes if everybody is traveling to this specific town. Maybe you're returning to it, or maybe you're seeing it the first time, in order to attend this funeral of this person that you hopefully have some kind of connection to. I think that is all of the main information that I can give you, other than just giving me various question stuff. So with that, I will let you all make your characters, talk about them, introduce them, and then let me know if you have any questions, and if you have any specifically 2024 issues with Roll20, because that's something we're going to be dealing with for the first time tonight as well. We can start with, I think it sounded like Brandon was the furthest along. He was already introducing his character excitedly earlier. If you want to talk about Cere.
Yeah, I definitely can. I am getting used to the new 2024 sheet, so I apologize in advance.
You're welcome for all of you for that's the challenge.
So Cere Underbow is a hill dwarf, and I picked the farmer background for her.
Okay.
Essentially, my story, and is it okay to just repeat what I had said earlier?
You can. I was gonna flip to the. Do you remember what the page the backgrounds were on? I guess I could pull it up.
No idea, because I've only done it in Roll20.
Yeah, I should put it on there. I'm so used to just flipping through the book. There you go. I can pull it up on Roll20 pretty easy. Actually, you know what I did? I went through and on my compendium, I disabled everything except basically the 2024 stuff. So that way, when you all come into your sheets, that's like all that you see. So hopefully that made it a lot more efficient.
So I picked cleric, even though clerics aren't necessarily a thing. And the way that I was going to do it was that if there's any healing that she's done in the past, it's through like tinctures and poultices.
Look at this background. How did you do it that quick? That is amazing.
What background? Oh, Krynn? Yeah.
You put them back.
Yeah.
Teacher's pet.
So she's submissive, proud, hopeful, abandoned, and amazed. It's adjectives that we usually try to help describe our character. And what I've got is Cere is a stout, hardy dwarf who believes that the old ways of her people, their craft, their lore, and their spirit are fading. She's taken it upon herself to preserve everything dwarven: traditions, recipes, rituals, songs, herbs, weapons, and architecture. To her, even an old miner's pickaxe or a forgotten drinking song is a sacred thing worth saving. She lives just outside of Kalaman and often travels between Vogler and Kalaman, selling herbs and tinctures and searching for dwarven antiques. I'm going to say that she had met Ispin through Cudgel, which was the dwarf, and that she's kind of used him as a connection to some of the dwarven antiques.
Okay. Cudgel is actually a woman.
Than her. So
so is Becklin, by the way. In case anybody wrote that in their stories. Okay, I like it. That makes sense.
She does still have like a connection to okay, so I've been saying it's reworks, but according to the internet, it looks like it might be reworks. But only in the sense that like most dwarves still have a connection to reworks. Even if it's not like in a direct devout way, it's that. But Cere's definitely in a like everything dwarven is fantastic and amazing, and why would you not want to celebrate dwarven culture?
Okay. Do you think that's met with I guess it kind of depends on your personality too, but do you think other people find that annoying or quaint or enjoyable?
It starts out as they find it quaint, and then it gets annoying. She is over the top with it.
Yeah. So what's interesting is you will not become a cleric technically until the end of the prelude. I will say that.
Yeah, which again, she's more of like an antiquer preserver.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. Obviously, I kind of spoil things a little bit, but like there literally isn't any path for divine magic at the moment. So you like your personality can be that and everything, but in terms of you like having those abilities, those will not come online until we do the prelude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. And by the way, we are starting at level 2 because we all know level 1 is bullshit. But even though 2024 recommends we start at 3, there's still some like real introductory stuff we can do for like, you know, a session or so. That's worth, I think, starting at level 2 if you will allow that. But definitely don't need level 1, so we can have everybody. Essentially, the book says you're level 1, and then the prelude happens, and then you're level 2. But that's just not worth putting that barrier between them. Is anybody else pretty far along in your character? Does anybody have any questions or concerns as they make their character?
I do have a quick question. Have to go first. It's now all going to be behind.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
That's not true.
Well, I'm not ready.
Oh, you're not ready. Okay. Who had the question?
I'm going to be like last. I literally did the thing where I'm like, I'm going to wait till last minute to see if anyone else posts any information online, and then nobody did. And I'm like, oh, okay. So
this is what Chris does in every single thing we do. It drives me crazy. I love him to death, but he will. Shout out to Chris. He will never choose anything. He will always say, "I'll fill whatever needs to be done."
How many barbarians do we have at the moment?
Not enough, I think is always the answer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, do we have a breakdown of general like classes people are leaning towards when it comes to, and this is the tricky thing about, so with the patron campaign, keep in mind, because I know a lot of you are like, well, I don't want to have this many of this, or I want to make sure I'm this character. Remember, we're going to be rotating people, so I don't know what I don't know how to even look at it from a party composition standpoint when we could have, you know, games where, you know, all casters are not here for whatever reason. So my opinion is just do whatever you want to do. I did mention prelude-wise, it's divided up into 3 different preludes, with one basically for divine spellcasters, one for arcane spellcasters, one for everybody else. So it might be worth at least having one more for each of those other preludes is kind of what I'm leaning towards. But other than that,
my character's done. If anybody else,
go ahead, Jared. Yeah.
Well, somebody had a question.
Marcus, I think
Marcus's question was about the barbarians. Did anybody else?
Oh yeah, that was my question.
Okay. I did want to ask a question about the Knights of whatever, the Salamia, whatever they're called.
Yes.
Is that a particular character class type of thing, or is that just kind of warriors in general?
More of a faction. It's more of a faction, and you can flavor any of those specific backgrounds I mentioned as that, which basically they are the primary classic good aligned, specifically knights of the realm. They are 90% human, I think. They're based in Salamnia, obviously. And they were a shining beacon of the classic, like, honorable, chivalrous knight. Jared might be able to help me with this. I believe they sort of backed or were part of the Istar Holy Empire, which there, you don't have to know all this, but basically they got rid of the evil goddess, and they kind of rose, and then the king priest decided he wanted to be a god, and the gods didn't like that, so they and the whole thing caused the cataclysm. So a lot of people associate the Knights of Salamnia with this big cataclysm problem, basically, that was granted hundreds of years ago, but so their image is a little tarnished since then. But it's not like they're like spit on or anything. It's, especially amongst humans, they're still considered a very powerful centralized fighting force. So it's just, if you want to be, if you are, I mean, you can be a fighter and not care about the knights at all. Obviously, you can be just a warrior or what, adventurer or whatever. But if you want to aspire to be a knight, which is something a lot of people do want to be in this universe, for whatever reason, then that is a option for you. And I will say that this campaign does take place in the northeast corner of Salamnia, and the fact that it's written in the book maybe means there's some significance when it comes to faction importance.
Are they like a knight is normally a knight because they're tied to a lord or something, like to a space, right? So are these guys like wandering fighters, or are they, you know what I mean? Like how would they be in a campaign if they're theoretically tied to land or something?
Yeah, I mean they do have a centralized force. They're ostensibly they are tied to the 3 of the good gods, which I think I actually mentioned them in the player primer. Those gods,
Paladin, and one other one I forget.
Paladin, yeah.
One of them, like the kingfisher, the rose, and the sword, the crown, or something.
Yes. And so yeah, they're tied to the gods. They're tied to good alignment, and they're tied to this land, basically. Although they can expand beyond that.
Yeah, most of
Yeah,
the
so I was
knights
gonna
were
say-
landholders.
Yeah, if memory serves, it was not always so much like tied to a lord, but usually a region of the land that they usually sort of dedicated themselves to. And it was kind of loose in the, sort of a knight of reputation can make another knight kind of thing. They just have to swear the oath and oath and measure.
Mm-hmm.
They could be. I guess my question is like, how would they be? They could still be adventurers, like traveling the land and having adventures. Like they don't have to be like.
Yes, yeah. So they
I'm
were
thinking like character-wise, like what their motivation.
So especially like using the books as reference, there was lots of them that would like travel in a group together doing things, but there were a lot that would travel in, 1s, 2s, and 3s. And then, obviously kind of, because some of the characters revolve around it in the original books, but like there was like one Solomonic knight that was traveling with other people who were not, Solomonic knights. But he saw them as they were a force for good going to do these things together, adventuring.
Okay. They don't have to be like super organized as a group. That's cool.
I mean, it's kind of like if you're like a CIA agent being sent to, a town, and you group up with like the local law enforcement and, I don't know, militia or something. You're still part of the CIA and you still report to them, but like you're helping solve the problem with this group also because you're all trying to solve a bad problem. That's maybe a bad example, but it's, so you're still part of your faction, and you might even get orders to like, hey, you need to go here and help out. But yeah, as John was saying, certainly that are knights that just help out with groups instead of helping out with their main fighting force or soldiers or something. Or maybe you liaison with like groups and stuff. Like they may send a knight like, hey, this one knight is going to go be the castellan of this castle over here. So you hardly ever hang out with other knights. You might just hang out with like the locals basically, and then if there's any problems, then you would go with those locals to help solve the problem. It's a good question though.
Yeah, the Dragonlance lore is so rich. I mean, there's probably, Eric, I think I've read probably in excess of 30 novels that they wrote for this. And it's like, and it's hard to remember it all.
Yeah.
It's like crazy deep and rich.
A lot of it reminds me of like the Star Wars expanded universe, or even now that we're getting into the Disney Plus shows, where it's like, and I think I was talking to Dory about this, the fact that there's like your original trilogy, and then the new trilogy and the prequel trilogy, and then everything you consume Star Wars, like the first question you have to ask is like, okay, where does this take place? Does this take place between episode 6 and 7? Are we between 4 and 5? Are we right in the middle of 4? Like what's the timeline here? And that's kind of how Dragonlance is. So if you think of the original trilogy of Dragonlance as literally the first ones they wrote in the 80s, the Autumn, Twilight, Night and Spring books, this takes place like maybe months before that first book is set. And that matters in terms of what the situation is with all the different stuff and the warfare and everything. But yeah, that has a very, very rich lore. It also, as a consequence, it's almost the opposite of Eberron then, because when you play in this world, then you can suddenly be a stickler of like, oh wait, that's not how it happened, or this didn't happen at this time, or this changed here. Versus Eberron, it's like, hey, here's the past, but then we have no future. Like, this is just the time right now. I think is the last time I looked at Eberron, and that's kind of an advantage to that space. It's much more malleable. This one is less so, but I think we can by playing in a specific space in a specific time, and the campaign does a good job of letting the players do things that matter for sure. Then that's how you get away with basically playing during a certain time period thing. Jared, you want to go ahead and introduce your character because you said you were pretty far along?
Sure, I can. I actually did a deep dive, and I went as far back as I could in the history for like the actual lineage of my character, which is Elyas Starglow. Elyas is an adoptive child for a couple in Vogler who were the traders in the area. They were childless. They couldn't have a baby. So a nursemaid brought Elyas in one day as a newborn, who was the child of a woman by the name of Lasara, and her parents were a knight and a lady of Solamnia who were killed by bandits on the road. And if you go far enough back in the lineage, one of his ancient ancestors was the knight Huma Dragonbane and the silver dragon Gwyneth. Was it Gwyneth? Yeah, Gwyneth. So that's kind of, I was actually thinking about being a sorcerer, and that's how I did it. But I kept the storyline the same, and because he's going to be a wizard,
Okay.
red robe wizard. He grew up in Vogler, and because of his background, he had some innate magicalness that's kind of over the 1,000 years since his great great grandmother, the Silver Dragon, and he grew up, and he is actually one of the scribes for the town, and that's how he met our patron. What was his name?
Ispin.
Ispin. Grew up at his feet, hearing the stories about all the ancient histories, and he was trained by a red robe mentor in the town, and was introduced as a trader to keep the books, the ledgers, and started tinkering and drawing symbols that his parents couldn't figure out were Willem and Mara, and they couldn't figure out what he was drawing, and brought in a wizard who identified these as ancient magical texts that he was just drawing, didn't know what he was doing. So they had him trained as a wizard early in life, and he learned how to be a scribe for missives for the Knights of Solamnia, as well as other wizards that were in the area. So he, over time, learned the magical trade through this red robe, and I guess tonight he'll go take his test in the Tower of High Sorcery, maybe in Wayrith or Palanthea or wherever we're going to do that at. But that's his background, very very rich and colorful. But he doesn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
He doesn't know where he came from. He doesn't know anything about his mother who died in childbirth. So he has a really strong tie to Solamic Knights, but he doesn't know that, and even his adoptive parents don't know that. The only person that would know that would have been the nursemaid that brought him in, and she didn't give him that. But he does have a silver pendant in the shape of a dragon scale. That is his heritage that he has on it, and we might be able to tie that in somewhere in the road, and maybe his background comes up into play or something. I'll let Eric decide if he wants to go there or not.
That sounds. I like that. Can you write?
It is. It's in the bio and info on the bio information on it. I even have it broken down in like when he was born.
For some reason, when I
and the descriptive words are thoughtful, empathetic, neutral, determined, and curious.
Nice. Yeah, something I forgot to remind everybody is when everybody generates their characters, I do ask that everybody gives me 5 descriptive words, just one word descriptions to kind of summarize your character. And also I give a little, if you want to add a fun little quirk to your character, there's a D100 table I like to use. It's linked somewhere, I think, in this primer. You can give your character a random quirk, or you can just choose one if you like.
I forgot to mention mine. That's one of the reasons that I'm going to try to play
Yeah.
more of a pacifist support role. She's got a strict moral code. That's what I rolled, was a 7. And then the trinket that she has a silver spoon with a letter engraved on the handle. The letter's an M, but she thinks it's a W because her father's name is Warburn. So she's anyway.
And I like that. When you said you put it in the bio and info, Jared, when I click on the tab, I just see it blank. Is it not blank for you?
No,
I wonder if
I
it has
just
to
copied
show-
it and sent it to you in a message in
Okay.
Discord. So it sent it through on that one. So it's quite expansive.
Okay, gotcha. I'll see if I can put some of it in the Roll20 sheet, because that'll be the best place, I think, to
Yeah,
immortalize
I'm looking
it.
straight at it. So
Okay.
Can you see stuff under my bio and info?
Let
for
me
Cere?
see. Okay, I do see it on yours. Let me try to add it to Elyas and see if that works.
I don't know. This is like when I bring up my
Oh,
character.
it's in the text is black. It's black on black. That's why.
Oh, then change it from your over in the top left hand where you can do like the preview. It's got dark mode. If you put it on
Yeah.
dark mode, you can't see it. So you have to take it off of dark mode to be able to read it. Because I don't know how to change. I guess I could change the color of the
Yeah,
letters to white. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could do that, I think, yeah, so it's literally just invisible. Use invisible writing. That's too wizardy for me. I can't handle. It's written in a coded.
Let's see if I can change the color.
Okay, we've got 2, which is 1 divine spellcaster, 1 arcane spellcaster, which is awesome. Hoping we get some more of those, but does anybody else have any good ideas, thoughts, or have made progress on their character?
I do have a quick question. Oh, sorry.
We want you to start raising hands because we have everybody here. Go ahead, Marcus.
Pick me.
Yeah.
I have no knowledge of Krynn or Dragonlance. But I guess the general question is, the big thing that I've heard is that there's no gods in this setting, or at the moment there's no gods.
Yep.
Is the world just a terrible place to live right now? Or is everything kind of okay at the moment? Outside of the Dragon Queen stomping around, of course. But like, is it raining blood every day?
No.
Are there locusts across the land? Or
No.
what's the world?
If anything, there's less of that. Because without the gods, you don't have all the crazy shit happening. So it's kind of a give or take thing, honestly. Like, yeah, you get. I imagine it would be, a different answer from every person, I think, because some of the gods were very good and did great things for people and obviously provided healing magic, and other gods were huge assholes. So maybe it's a wash, but ultimately, the big thing is the cataclysm happened 300 years ago. So it's less of a shock thing now and more people are just getting on with their lives. There was, because of the cataclysm, literally like like the Plains of Dust, I think, was created from the cataclysm, for example, in the South. Like, that used to not be that. So, like, the world was, like, reshaped, parts of it, because of the cataclysm. But that was 300 years ago. So, we are rebuilding and life finds a way and everything. It's a good question, but in general, things have been okay for everybody. But I think it just depends. Some people, like I said, would lament the loss of the gods, and others would be like, we're better off without them. The thing about the Dragon Queen that you mentioned, that's something I haven't really gotten into too much here, because that obviously will go with the campaign. Some of you may have heard rumors. I mentioned the fact that like hobgoblins and ogres taking over whole cities, and you may have heard certain rumors about mass armies marching, or maybe people even saying they've seen a dragon or two in the distance, for example. But everything has been rumor. Like, this is a pretty low magic world, all things considered, and word does not travel very very far.
Alrighty. And then I guess the second part of that, and this can be ambiguous if that's unknown, but before 300 years ago and before, all of the ages, um, was this setting always controlled by gods? Were they always around? Or is it something where, life was here and then the god like, hey, guess what? I can do this, Pam, magic. Or have they always been linked together?
I
My little bit of research said that
yeah.
reorcs created the whole world.
Yeah, I think that's always been the case. Now that won't always be the case, as a spoiler for future books and novels and series in Dragonlance, where that whole paradigm shifts at some point. But yes, I believe from ancient times, like the gods have been very, very closely integrated into this world history. So for them to not be around is a very huge change for this. And like I said, like there is no divine magic without direct godly power as a conduit through you. Basically, all clerics and paladins and things were essentially like kind of warlocky in that way. But with I guess clerics were always tied to gods, but or were they in fifth? I don't even remember. Fifth edition actually changed the cleric. Even do they still have to be tied to specific gods? I'm not even sure, but
I believe so.
Yeah.
Or a portfolio.
Okay. I know they changed paladins to make it an oath thing, which in this case, so the knights are not necessarily paladins. The Knights of Slomnia, for example, they do take oaths, but they take an oath again, like you would if you were being sworn in as a politician in our government, like you take an oath, to defend the Constitution or whatever. They take an oath to like serve the knighthood and everything, and there's a whole phrase they utter and everything. That doesn't necessarily make them paladins, though. Only if they want to literally, have divine power through one of the good gods and channel that, do they essentially become a paladin. Which, again, a paladin in this universe would just kind of be a more militant cleric, basically.
Think about Knights of the Round Table as probably a closer symbolization of what we're talking about.
And it's a very low magic world, everything considered. Like, wizards are powerful, but fairly rare, I would say. And not like people are like, oh shit, it's a wizard, but be like, oh damn, there's a wizard. So I don't know, somewhere around there.
I feel like it's like seeing a helicopter, right? Like it's one of those things like you see a helicopter and it's like, oh man, a helicopter. But it's like, the helicopter's in
and
here.
if you see a lot of helicopters, like, oh shit, something's going down, which is probably the same as if you saw a bunch of wizards as well.
Yeah. Might just be a me thing, but
no, I like it. Wizards are now helicopters in this analogy.
I did read something about the like lifespan of the races is not always like dwarves don't live centuries. Dwarves live like a century. Is that correct, or did I read the wrong thing?
I thought it was more than a century. I could have sworn.
So I think that is some of the changes with 2024, not the Dragonlance thing.
Not Krynn. Okay.
I was about to say dwarves are people.
Dwarves, Flint only lived to be like 120 or something like that because he died of a heart attack in canon.
Oh no. I'm only on the winter book.
Spoiler alert.
Season.
All right, who else? Who else we have for characters coming along?
I have kind of a question.
Go ahead.
Before I finish pulling the trigger. So I'm kind of going with a battle mage theme.
Okay.
So like a mage, but gonna go with like an axe and shield. And so I was curious how strict you feel on like some of the like somatic gesturing for spell. Is that going to be where like character needs to have a hand free, or is that just a little bit of kind of hand wave that, or what's your thoughts on that?
I've honestly always hand waved that. I just think it's. I mean, I don't think it's particularly imbalancing. Maybe some other folks have opinions about that, but I think it's just annoying if you have to
That's
like.
the first setting we changed in Solasta because it's bullshit.
Yes, Solasta is what I was thinking of actually. When you're a paladin and you have your mace and your shield, and you're like, every time I want to cast a spell, I have to stow my shield and then cast the spell, but I can only stow a thing once, so I can have the shield off and then do it and then put the shield out. The next turn I want to cast another spell, I gotta put the shield back, have the spell, then I have the spell out until then. It's a huge fucking pain in the ass. So I'm not a big stickler about it, frankly.
Okay.
Just like I've never been a stickler about people like changing weapons or do any of that kind of stuff. I'm just not into that level of realism, frankly. Now, hopefully people, on the other hand, hopefully people don't abuse it and get kind of ridiculous with like just taking out every weapon for 3 different attacks or something. That might be a little silly, but yeah, I've never worried about all that. Would you think is a battle mage a baseline wizard with a different kind of subclass, or is it a fighter with like Eldritch Knight?
No, so I'm gonna go one level of fighter and then the rest wizard.
Okay.
Kind of the
opposite of what Jason did in the last campaign, I think. Weren't you a fighter wizard?
Yeah, one level wizard.
Yeah. Get that fighter dip.
Battle master.
Yeah.
Your dip. Wizard dip. Find familiar dip.
So would you, John, would you want to, because to be a wizard, they it's not only heavily encouraged to join the Mages of High Sorcery, but they basically require it or they hunt you down as a renegade.
Yeah, no, my plan was to be...
Which we can work with that, but I just want to warn you ahead of time.
Yeah, my plan was be a red robe, yeah.
Okay, exclusive club. You gotta join us or die. Which I will argue is slightly better than the Dragon Age version, where they had another faction be the ones who watch over the mages and like threaten to murder them and everything else. So at least the wizards in Dragonlance like police their own rather than have a third party to watch over them. Though granted, they could also turn into demons kind of easily, so that was a bit of an issue for the Dragon Age world. All right, cool. So we've got another wizard. Christopher, CT, you raised your hand. Tell me about your character ideas.
All right, so I created my character. His name is Pi, P-Y. He's a forest gnome, wayfarer, ranger, hunter.
Forest gnome, wayfarer, ranger. Okay, those are all.
So I don't know where.
Words.
Those are all words.
Those are all words. Forest gnome, ranger. Okay.
So I know that I read in there that in your primer that they're rare, but it doesn't mean that they're not exist. It just means that I'm unique.
Special snowflake. Yeah, there wasn't much information, frankly, on forest gnomes. I feel like most gnomes are painted with this brush of being the eccentric inventor trope as a species, and then forest gnomes are not quite that. So there's a lot more you can play with, I guess, in terms of how that develops.
He wasn't born in Mount Nevermind then.
Presumably, yeah.
The 5 words that I picked are to describe them. Describe him as unique, happy, confident, interested, and optimistic.
Oh.
But I guess because the gnome comes out of him, so I guess he just whittles a lot with a little pocket knife type thing.
Okay.
And then the trait, I captured it in my bio. The trinket, I have a half of a floor plan for a temple or castle. I'm guessing I have probably for some structure that's probably nothing more than a cafeteria or eating place, honestly. And then my quirk is that I yearn to be famous or a celebrity, but I don't know exactly what that means because Ispin is probably the most famous person I've met, so to speak.
All right, so Ranger, this is an interesting edge case where, again, I mentioned divine magic only tied to the gods. So my question is, do we want to have you have a connection to a specific god that is what allows you to cast your spells? Or I'm willing to, if you want to just reflavor all of your spells as like quasi special tactics and abilities you have, which again work better for some spells than for others. And then we can kind of eschew the whole godly powered spell angle. Either one can make sense. It just depends on if you want to go with the tied to the god thing. And it could be in the context of the, like I said, the prelude is going to help introduce people to this godly connection, which could help give you that extra motivation or something. But if you want to go down that route, and if not, like I said, we can do the other angle.
I was thinking, because I thought about that, right? Of having, I had selected Cure Wounds during the thing, but it might be better for me to choose like Goodberry, which is more like being able to find the right thing in nature.
Yeah.
You know,
there's like the scene in the Fellowship of the Ring, I think, where he's like oh, that's a weed, like, because he gets, they get the poultice or whatever because he just knows the land. He's like, hey, I know the right herbs to use and stuff.
Right, but I couldn't do the same type of. How would I do that with like Entangled?
It does get a little tricky that way. I agree. Maybe you set up some snares or something. Like, I feel like if we're all really creative, if you want to go that angle, I think we could work it that way. Obviously, some, even like Speak with Animals, I feel like could be like, oh, you're just a fucking dog whisperer or something. Like, you're just that good at it. But like I said, there may be some cases where it gets a little silly, but maybe you're just that good. But I'm willing to have that be the solution for sure.
Okay. And even my Cure Wounds, so maybe I'll keep Cure Wounds, and instead I'm more or less like handling and putting like a salve, or something that I've kind of
as long as we keep the mechanic, we're like, hey, you still have to touch them, so it's like, hey, I've got to put this ointment on my hands and rub your shoulders or whatever, and that's what does it. But I think that's important. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, which kind of goes to like the gnomish things where I'm constantly like grabbing plants as I'm going and constantly put them in like tiny little things on my belt, like little capsule things, like Batman style, but not quite Batman style. If Batman was like in Peter Pan, I guess.
Batman meets Peter Pan. Excellent. As a unique character description. Yeah, I think we can work with that for sure. And like I said, I think most of the spells actually, like Hunter's Mark, obviously you can just be like, oh, I'm just super focused on this one, on my quarry right here. So I think a lot of those can be targeted. What'd you say your background was? Wayfarer?
Yeah, Wayfarer.
Okay.
Which I don't remember what he gives me. I think he gives me Lucky, I think.
Lucky's pretty good.
Which I figured is just like wandering around. It was either that or I was going to pick one of the other ones, but I didn't really think it fit very well. And I do have a piece of art. I'm just going to drop into my.
Yeah, if you guys want to have art, obviously we'll need tokens for the first couple sessions. I don't have any original art for you guys yet. I do hope to spin that up soon. I do ask that everybody play in a couple sessions first, just to make sure we're liking those characters, and that's like gonna be the art we want to generate. So we won't have any of that for at least a couple sessions. So I do ask everybody to give me some kind of art, and we can, if you can turn that into a token, great. I can do it on my end, and then we can have tokens ready to go for next time.
Okay. Yeah, and I just added it to my character sheet, so I don't know if you want to share it for the class. But.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I need to be sharing everybody's stuff, don't I? Let's see. How do I do that with the new sheet? Maybe settings. There we go. All players. Okay, so that should start working. I'm just putting everybody into reserve party for now. That one, all players. Okay, so now you should be. I don't know how it looks on 2024. I guess you can just see the bio and info tab probably.
Yes.
But that's something.
I see all Jared's stuff.
Mine
now.
just says no edit access. I can't see
You have
anything.
to click over to the other one. Bio and info.
Oh, does it default to the character sheet? That's annoying.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't see any other tabs.
At the top underneath the name, it'll have like for pies, it has pie and then character sheet, then bio and info.
It doesn't show the art that I uploaded.
It does for me a little bit.
Okay, cool.
It's cute.
So I go to reserve party in the chat or in the journal.
Here, I'm gonna put it in Discord.
Yeah, I click on your character and I get a pop-out box that says no edit access.
Ooh, that's weird.
So above it where it's pink, do you have the character sheet and then bio and info?
Nope. I don't have any of that.
What if you pop it back in?
Mine's automatically popping out. How do you get it to pop back in?
I don't know how to get it to pop out.
So when you settings, personalization and display, there's a first box that says pop out journal files into new windows. Maybe uncheck that box.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
And I think you have to like close that window out and then reopen a character.
Oh yeah, and actually that's it.
Now
because
I see
when
it.
you do the pop out,
straight up errors.
you don't get any
Oh,
tabs.
That's good to know. Okay.
You see nothing, right?
So you can't default to that to look at other people's stuff.
Correct. Yep.
I'm sure that's the only problem we will run into for the 2024 sheets. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Speaking of Dory, I believe you also had a character lined up.
I do. So I don't know a lot about Dragonlance, so I decided to lean into the kender, since this is the only setting that I will ever have the opportunity to interact with this type of character.
Mm-hmm.
So, also I wanted to play a character that steers away from my tendency to become like the team mom and the like super logical, like let's talk about this and take care of everybody. So yeah. So I'm gonna lean into not that. So my 5 adjectives, and then I'll kind of describe. So I'm gonna do kender bard. I'm gonna do the wayfarer background. I did have a question about that because halfling gets lucky and the wayfarer background also gets lucky. I don't know if you would allow a swap or it's just gonna be what it is because there's an overlap.
Does halfling get lucky?
I didn't know how you. I didn't. I thought they made them so you couldn't like accidentally have two together.
Check.
Interesting. Maybe that's just not possible.
They get luck when you roll a 1 on a d20.
Lucky is
re-roll the die.
Origin.
You must use the new roll.
Oh, sweet. Okay, then never mind. Ignore that question I just asked. Sorry about that.
Origin feat.
Wait, so how are they different?
Apologies.
They get luck when you roll a 1 on the d20 of a d20 test. You can re-roll the die, and you must use the new roll.
That's the halfling trait?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the halfling one. Okay. I apologize, everyone. I misread that and thought I was reading the exact same thing.
The only problem.
And then lucky allows you to spend luck points to give yourself advantage or give somebody disadvantage.
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to do kender bard. The plan is to do College of Lore when I'm able to take a college. My character's name is Ellowyn Quent, and everyone calls her Ello for short. So her name is Ellowyn.
Love that band in the 80s. They were great. Right.
Oh, thank you. So her 5 adjectives are quirky, witty, imaginative, radiant, due to her currently unknown connection to Cere, and she's very candid / unfiltered.
Love it.
And here is her introduction, and then I will drop her character art in, because I didn't actually hit finish on the character sheet because I wanted to double check and make sure I didn't do anything weird. But I don't know if you can see the backstory in there if I haven't finished the sheet. I hit next, like, review character, and then hit build.
Maybe I don't see anything under bio and info on my end yet.
Okay, so I just hit build.
Okay.
So it should be there. So this is the introduction that I wrote. Ellowyn Quent is a whirlwind of charm, curiosity, and borrowed brilliance. Ever optimistic and full of wonder, she sees the world as a patchwork of inspiration, just waiting to be quoted. She's talkative but not overbearing, always ready with a line that sounds suspiciously familiar. But she delivers it with such earnest joy, it's hard to hold it against her. Where other kender borrow shinies and pocket trinkets, Ellowyn had a habit of tucking away catchy limericks, heroic monologues, and memorable melodies. If someone tells a tale in the woods and no one is there to hear it, is it really theirs? She believes every good idea deserves to be shared, preferably with flourish and flair. Her sharp wit is hidden behind a wide-eyed innocence, and while she rarely tells an original story, she makes every tale her own through her sheer enthusiasm. Mischievous, but not malicious, she'll borrow your phrase, your proverb, or your punchline and gift it back to the world twice as bright. To Ellowyn, truth is flexible, words are treasure, and inspiration is divine, whether she knows it yet or not. And I did also write a connection to Ispin. So her backstory is entitled "The Inspiration She Forgot to Credit." Ellowyn Quent never meant to become a bard. It just sort of happened to her, like a story she heard once and accidentally made her own. Born in Calaman's Edge district to traveling tailors, Ello grew up with a patchwork understanding of the world, stitching together ideas, phrases, and tales like fabric scraps. Her parents didn't have time for formal education, so Ello learned by listening to dockhands, to soldiers, to street performers, and most of all, to adventurers passing through from Solamnia or the Vingard River trade routes. On one such day, Ellowyn found herself in the village of Vogler, a detour on a delivery errand that turned into something much more. There she met Ispin Greenshield, telling stories outside the Brass Crab to a crowd of wide-eyed locals. Ellowyn lingered long after the children had scampered off, pestering Ispin with questions like, "Did that really happen? Whose sword was it before yours? Can I borrow that joke?" Instead of shooing her away, Ispin laughed and offered her a chair and a cup of cider. He told her, "Stories are like campfires, best when shared." And that phrase would live in her head for years. She'd repeat it often, always forgetting to say it was his.
I like it.
That's really good.
And
okay.
I'm gonna just figure out a way how to add her art to here, but I can drop it into Discord really quick as well.
And I think we mentioned it, and you mentioned it during your story, that even though bards are arcane spellcasters, instead of going the Wizard of High Magic route, it would actually fit more thematically if you went the Divine Spellcaster route and had your magic infused from a relationship to one of the gods. Which I am
and that's
totally fine with.
That's why when I was doing my adjectives, I put radiant, because obviously, like, a radiant is a bright personality, but I use that because Syrian is like for passion and excitement, and it looked like the visual was like different colored fire and things. So that's why I chose radiant as the adjective. Yes.
Very nice. Cool. So we will put you, we're going to lump you into the Divine Spellcaster section, which that will be thematically how you will gain access to your spells, if you're okay with that also, is because of this event that's going to happen. Basically, you were always obviously a bard and a talented at music and stuff, but actually gaining all this magical ability is going to be introduced through this specific prelude. So far, we have a cleric, wizard, ranger, and bard. Does that help other folks make some decisions for their characters? Morgan, you've been very quiet.
I actually already have my character mostly done.
Hell
I just have
yeah.
to level up to 2. I am going to be playing Kazra Shieldbinder. She is a human fighter, and she grew the daughter of a shield maker. And her dad was the shield maker, and her mom was an old mercenary that settled down with the shield maker that used to make shields. And she and her mom used to fight in the militia for her old town back in the day. And that's where she learned to fight, and she got the soldier background from that. And her parents recently died, and she was looking for work. So she thought, well, Vogler's a bigger town. I might as well get going to there and start looking for work. And she is focusing mostly on protection. Her 5 adjectives are honest, trusting, generous, protective, and follower. She doesn't really come up with ideas on her own. She usually just follows the crowd, and she wants to protect the people that she cares about. That's her big goal. So she focuses on lots of shield work. In fact, that's her biggest weapon that she carries with her, kind of thing. She has a giant tower shield that is almost as big as she is, and she's like 6 feet tall, and she weighs a little over 300 pounds.
Wow.
She kind of looks like, if you've ever seen the pinup girl, if you've ever seen Hilda, the old pinup girl from like the 40s and 50s, she kind of looks like that, but with armor. And she also carries a big war hammer with her that she uses to kind of push people around on the battlefield.
Who's the girl from Overwatch that I'm thinking of?
Forget.
No, I was thinking of the one with the shield gun thing.
Oh, Zarya.
Zarya, yeah. Is it like Zarya? Zarya's my reference, I guess.
I've never played that game.
Oh,
so
dang it. I was
I'm
hoping I would have
assuming
the analogy everybody would know.
But yeah, she's going to focus on
shield.
Yeah, she's going to be protecting a lot of people, kind of the opposite of Millie. She's going to be staying in one place and protecting people.
I was going to say, I already miss Millie.
I love everybody's like, specifically, I'm playing against type of what I just did.
But she is also, like, her highest stat is her strength. She actually is a 20 strength.
Wow.
And but she has an 8 in both wisdom and intelligence. So she's not exactly the brightest, and she's very trusting. So she just assumes everyone's telling her the truth every time, every day. And I'm going to roll for my hit points for level 2, if that's okay.
Yeah. So
okay, and we have a rule. Is that the rule that if we don't roll the average, we can take the average?
Yes. Yeah, basically the same thing as the stat generation, which hopefully everybody understood that as we've already gotten to the character development, but you can, for stat generation, we can do any of the options, but if you roll for stats and get worse than what the like average point buy or standard array would give you, you can just fall back on one of those. And the same thing for hit points. Every time you level up, you can choose to roll, which I guess you'd always choose to roll for hit points. If you roll worse than what the average would be for whatever your hit die is, then you can just take the average. That way everybody is either average to amazing. We don't have any more variance than that.
Well, that means that I took the average hit points for this level, so I have a big tough woman that's coming in to smash things.
Always good to have a tank. I think everybody would agree. Note to self.
Gonna have a couple of tanks.
give a magic shield to Kazra at some point. Needs a shield.
Or don't if you want to like keep your game normal.
All right, that's a good. What do we got? 5 so far.
Would it be this be a good time since we have half people? Can we take a break?
Let's try and get maybe
early?
1 or 2 more. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just
We're
dying here.
okay. I'll see if we're at the top of the
Also,
hour.
I have been quietly trying to figure out how to make a character sheet. I can't figure it
Do
out.
we need assistance?
I've
In
been doing the
in
plus
journal?
character.
Yeah.
Nothing pops up after I click it. I do plus character. I select.
What browser are you using?
Popping up now.
What browser are you using? Won't work. It wouldn't work for me either. I have to use Firefox, or else it wouldn't. I could click characters all day and wouldn't do anything. I had to use it Firefox, and then it would.
Same here. I've clicked it maybe 50 times, hoping that I wasn't spamming Eric with just random.
No, I haven't seen
sheets.
anything.
I don't know.
I can just give you. I can make a sheet and give it.
So when you
it worked in Firefox for me. So
were you getting through the character screens and then feeling like you dead ended?
No, I never even got to that part. It would pop up a box saying, "Hey, do you want to do 2024, 2014?" I was like, "2024, of course."
It's probably not kicking off the JavaScript.
There, I'm just gonna give.
And then you're clicking create, and absolutely nothing happens, and the dialog box away. That's exactly what was happening to me.
Oh,
yeah, same here. And I only have Firefox or anything else.
All right. So do you? Okay. Sorry, you should have said something earlier. I could have made you a sheet.
No, I didn't want to interrupt people. But people were in the group.
No, that's the kind of thing you say.
Actually,
hey, Eric,
hello,
make me a sheet.
hello. I thought it was a user error.
No, it's all good. All right. Well, now you can get started on that. Now that you've got the sheet, is anybody else a little bit further along than Marcus is for character creation?
I'm getting there, but I have like lots of questions.
Go ahead. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. So, kind of like a slight redo of a character I went through Tomb Annihilation with would be, his name would be Dargal the Slim, because he's not slim. Would be a barbarian. Going to be a wrestler / gladiator. Entertainer. So, barbarian, what's the other words I'm looking for? The categories are new to me now. Entertainer background, human. What else am I missing? Just for the generic stuff to start it off.
Yeah, that's the important stuff. Background, class,
that's
your species. I guess
pretty much it. So yeah, he's going to be someone who like maybe I don't know where the barbarians came from, but I kind of feel like he was a barbarian who came like into cities and stuff and used his like barbarian training to become like a wrestler, like a job,
yeah,
get famous basically.
So I guess there's 2 different ways I would probably do it. One would be like you're part of like a professional wrestling league almost, where like you're still in town, but you decided like, oh, I just want to be like into bodybuilding and do all that, but normally like my culture is just whatever city I'm in. Or if you literally want to be, no, I'm from like a more nomadic tribal people, and like we don't have really like formal fighters, we just have barbarians, but then I went to the city to entertain people, then you can do that. But then my culture is but both of those are human, if that makes sense too. You don't have to be human, but
okay, yeah, I think that works for me, because I think he's going to be more like a city guy who maybe didn't fit in with sort of a nomadic sort of thing. This guy was more into like pleasure and fun.
Sure, yeah. Then
like,
you can just be like, hey, I'm from a city, but I just wanted to be a fucking bodybuilder, like warrior stuff, and I have anger issues.
If anyone has suggestions for like certain barbarian tribes or something lore wise, let me know. Doesn't have to be now, but that would be sweet. I can look it up, but I just thought about it. He's huge. The funny thing is he's not as wide as the last character we talked to. He's 6'3", 280. I was like, oh no,
thought
that's
you would
too
be the
big for his
biggest
height.
character.
I'm like, he's almost square. And I'm like, no, the last character is literally square. 6 draws. Yeah, he's gonna use a maul, and he's gonna use hand axes. And this is the tricky part. I want him to be the world of the tree barbarian.
Mm.
So technically, they have like a connection to like the world tree. And I just read like Dragonlance has like a world tree god, but I don't think that's the same kind of thing.
I mean, we could.
World tree god is like wisdom of the tree. Tricky part is that a lot of his stuff is going to be very kind of like almost magic-y. Like he can literally he creates like magical, basically like tree roots that come up out of the ground and do stuff like heal people around him or grab bad guys and bring them close to him.
Yeah, that does. Yes, this 5e runs into a lot of problems with this, where the fact they gave like every subclass at this point basically like magic powers.
That was the tricky part.
Yeah.
When you're like, we're going to do Dragonlance, but we're going to do 2024. I'm like, yeah, okay, but
yeah. Well, I think that's 5e in general too. Is just giving everybody magic stuff. But so yeah. I'll say, we could flavor it either way. Honestly,
I'd be connected to a god and like have like a semi-divine power.
Yeah.
Okay, because that'd be really cool. I think I'd be into that.
Yeah. So like, you want to be like connected to like a nature god basically, and have that unlock additional powers.
Yeah, I was looking up the gods, and they don't really have like gods of nature so much. They're more like concepts. But if anybody has a suggestion that works,
they should be. Let's see. Habakkuk is the fisher god, who's also like the balance of nature, revered by sailors, farmers, and hunters. And then I think the other one is a neutral god. Chislev is the god of nature, kind of like the druid neutral god, but enigmatic and shy is not what I would describe as a gladiator necessarily.
Oh.
Follows are hermits, druids, and others who revere nature without asking anything in return. So this would be an interesting.
How about Zibalin?
Let me take a look, because I have this idea of the character being this very sort of yin yang guy.
Oh, yeah, Zibalin's literally like the world tree symbol, isn't it?
Yeah.
The calm wisdom necessary to wield knowledge in the world.
Like my concept, I think, is that a lot when you just talk to him and he's like walk around, he's very like jolly and he's funny. He's actually super charismatic. Like I've got charisma 14. He's gonna have like the musician thing, and he's got a bunch of like magical stuff, so he can do stuff. I think when he performs, he's more of like a rapper sort of angry. I see it's sort of like the angry guy from 300, but a rapper. Do you know what I mean? Like the main lead actor, but bigger.
Okay.
And then when he psych with, so the musician has a power where he can like psych up everybody and give them 10 hit points after a short rest. I think that's him like doing like a 300 kind of like rap / get everybody pumped.
Okay.
And like when he heals people with 10 hit points in battle, it's kind of like he's just getting them angry and psyched up using his like words, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. But that's the thing. So I think he's very yin yang, where he's kind of like very nice outside of combat and stuff, and maybe kind of wise. And then when he gets into fights, he gets all ragey and it's like a kind of explodes. So it could be like any god, I think, almost.
Yeah,
I'll take
it really could be.
If people have a suggestion, let me know. But that's what I got so far.
Yeah, if John or Jared have other godly suggestions to tie that together, I feel like that could actually fit a couple different ones.
Yeah, it's almost like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's got a mental health.
Well, it could just, I think that's an interesting character concept to play also. Somebody who, and maybe the god wants you to embrace one side more than the other, but it's up to you to which one you want to go with.
I think maybe he's actually pretty wise, and he's controlled rage. And it's almost like a meme for him. It's like, I'm going to rage now. I'm going to get angry.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Especially because I think are your powers tied to raging?
Yes.
So that could be interesting. You could have somebody who's like Sargonus, who I think is like the Minotaur god, but like god of flame, vengeance, and wrath. Of somebody who like really wants you to give in to your anger side or something, and helps fuel that power. We'll think about that.
For that, So but the magical part, all that tricky shit,
Yeah.
I think doesn't really trigger.
Until
Subclass
later.
doesn't happen until level 3, so
Yeah.
you can kind of have it like emerge or something. I don't know how you want to work it.
Well, the main thing I want to try to wrap up tonight would be anybody who has those kind of powers or feels like they're going to develop those powers would hopefully have that be introduced here in the prelude, so that way it can make sense within what's going on in the world. So that's something
That's really cool.
That's something I'm trying to nail down during this character creation process, trying to figure out like, okay, who's tied to the gods, who's tied to the mages, and try to figure that out so we can all have a good starting point and be tied to certain things in there. So for now, I will pencil you in with the divine casters, which is not where I expected a barbarian to go, but I'm really digging that as a character concept. Okay. Do we need a little more time to do the other ones? Do y'all want to take our break now, and then we can come back and get? Let's see. Who do we have right now? We've got 6 characters done, or 5 characters. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters done. So that leaves us with 4 remaining, or 3 remaining. Right? I can do math.
Jason, what was your character's name?
The character was Dargal.
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 Oh yeah. What were your 5 traits and your quirk? Do you have those?
Oh shit. I don't have those.
Okay. Well, remember that as we
posted, so everybody knows I posted this huge list of them in the Discord. It's like 1,000 ones long. So I'll look through it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go out on our break. And then we will return in about 10 minutes and we'll finish up these last few characters and then we will do our preludes. New break music.
Never know if I can leave.
All right. Jason, do we have quirks and trait yet? Or do we want to circle back around?
Oh. Yeah, circle around. Can I ask a question?
Yep.
I'm trying to get through my character sheet. Number 1, my feet thing on my character sheet is warped. So I'm hoping I'll be able to publish it. Number 2, languages. But are there languages that like do not exist? Are there languages that are like lore that we could have? That might be useful.
There are, common is common still. Honestly, the Forgotten Realms languages are probably the closest. Well, not like undercommon and stuff. I guess I should say, okay, common. Dwarvish is a language. Elvish is a language. Gnomish is a language. And then technically, like, human regions, I guess, have their own languages. I think Solamnic is a language. Like, and then all the monstrous races, Goblin, Ogre, Minotaurs, all have their own universe languages. I will say language is not necessarily going to be a big thing here. I don't see it as being a particular advantage or barrier or anything. It's a good question. Draconic, I guess, technically exists. So it's a lot of the more common languages from Forgotten Realms, I guess, work here as well.
There's no giants, right?
No. There are no giants. I don't think. Is that right? Look at John and Jared.
I don't remember
any
giants.
If there,
I don't remember any
they'd be like
giants.
an ancient forerunner progenitor thing or something, but I don't recall there ever being a giant thing.
Goblins and hobgoblins are a thing.
Yep.
They are not quite as related as they are in Forgotten Realms.
There are no orcs at all.
There are no orcs,
There's no orcs.
At all.
There's no bugbears.
Minotaurs and ogres are more common.
There's centaurs and dryads. Yeah.
Kobolds are not lizards, but are more dog-like.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like
Do we think the giants? Do we think
like-
ogres would speak giant, or would they speak more the hobgoblin languages?
What was that?
Since ogres are kind of an offshoot of giants, do we think they would speak giant, or would they be more in the hobgoblin
It says they
camp?
have
So
their own ogre language, just called ogre.
Yeah, and
They're actually related to like
because
elves, I think, aren't they?
But
yeah,
They're like
yeah,
ancient fallen elves or something weird.
Yeah, it's
yeah, and then because they enslaved the Minotaurs for like centuries, like most of the Minotaurs have lost their own language and they speak ogre.
it's literally been like 30 years since I read some of those.
I do remember there
books,
being
so
a cool series about minotaurs versus ogres stuff, though. It was
Yeah.
some of the later books that I read. The dude who wrote a bunch of Warcraft books, I think, did those Minotaur
we
books.
need somebody to play a gully.
We were talking. I was talking about that during the break. That I was it's Richard A. Knack.
Richard A. Knack, yeah. Yeah, I like those. I like the ones that did the POV of Draconians after the war, which was really cool. They did like 2 books, I think.
I heard that one.
Yeah, the Doom Brigade, I think. And then I liked, what was the Daemon Grimwolf saga, I think? It was an interesting one. That one went for like a trilogy. It was spun off of some 5th age. Anyway, I'm gonna get down the rabbit hole of Dragonlance stuff. All right, we'll circle back to Jason. Who hasn't done yet? We haven't had John, Genocider, and Marcus. Is that right?
So I think I'm pretty much ready.
Okay.
Although, like Jason, I don't have my adjectives ready, but I think
Okay.
right, I'm also doing that.
I'm ready.
Right. So I'm going to be Rickard Ormond. He is a human. And so, kind of as I mentioned before, going to go with the battle mage type of thing. So this is starting with one level of fighter and then going to wizard. And sort of the story on that is growing up, Rickard thought he was going to join the Solamnic Order, and so he trained towards that. And when he was old enough, got a job as a guard. But he always found that he kind of had a sort of a natural knack for many things. And it was a chance encounter with Ispin and getting to know him a little bit that Ispin explained to him that was small magics that he was performing. And then when he went to take his oath with the Solamnic Knights, there were those within the order that do not look favorably upon magic unless it is divine magic. And so that door was pretty much shut to him. And so with that door shut, he started studying magic in earnest.
Okay, I like the multi-class backstory angle too. I appreciate that.
Let's see. So background was a guard.
But it sounded like reflavored as the Knight of Solamnia background a little bit. Like you were straight up in that path to like be a squire, whatever the lowest rank was.
Yes. See, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I don't know. I think that covers it. Then I'll figure out adjectives.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're going the Mage of High Sorcery route with a fighter wizard multi-class. I like it.
And I was, like I said, I was nervous about rolling stats and then like rolled kind of ridiculous.
Nice. You pulled a Raymond where like everything is, let's see. Lowest stats
I got
12. Okay.
Yeah, nothing lower than a 12.
That's pretty damn good.
And got a 15 and a 16. So
wow, and an 18 intelligence. Very nice. What can we get a rundown of personality? I know the backstory was good, but like, what's the personality like? While you're still developing your traits.
Yeah, so he's gonna be more that I don't know. Like I said, still trying to figure out the adjectives, but definitely kind of the loyal. But the switch to magic is going to kind of bring in some sort of like sort of maverick, feels like you could be a hot shot type of
Are you going to be the shoot first, ask questions later character this time?
Yeah, probably.
So almost more of like a sorcerer, where magic maybe more of a raw talent that you're still trying to hone.
Yeah, well, and so trying to embrace that, like there was like natural magic happening there, but it's not all. And I don't know. I guess that's that thing of like knowing some of the lore there. Even though there weren't sorcerers, there were people that had like little bits of natural talent, and those were the ones that their parents would send them off to to the wizard's tower.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That answer that?
Yeah, I guess. Which I don't necessarily have to tell me this, but do you have any subclass ideas?
Yes. So
most of you, I think, have been planning or have already told us kind of where you're planning on going with that subclasses.
Yeah. The Arbiger, the one that's sort of a protection one. Yeah.
Okay.
Abjurer.
Abjurer.
There we go. When you've only read a word and you haven't heard anybody say it out loud.
Hey, you've heard Chris pronounce all kinds of shit.
Oh yeah.
it's a learning opportunity.
So yeah, kind of the sort of add to the protection side of things
multiple times in this session.
So my in that vein, to this day, my biggest embarrassment that like a ton of my friends give me a hard time about was the very first campaign running, and like I'm just winging it. Like it was my first time DMing, and so I'm just like, I hadn't hardly prepped. I'm just reading what it says and they walk into a room and I read the description on the room and I say brazier instead of brazier.
I've done that. I'm pretty sure you can watch me do that on YouTube.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we'll still do the traits and quirk for the character, but I will put you down as wizard. So far, I'm really liking how you guys have divided up between these 3 different kind of prelude sections, by the way. Genocider, I think you said you were ready to go?
Yep. So I'll be playing Korl Flatstone, a dwarven bard, and his adjectives are boastful, reckless, jolly, mischievous, insecure.
Nice.
He is a liar.
That's just
kind of why I laughed when
the first sentence description.
So basically, his backstory: he was just kind of wandering from village to village, entertaining people, telling them like fake stories about how much of a hero he was, getting free stuff from them.
So
and then
hope
slipping away.
You have the charlatan background, right? Because that's like the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. He's just a professional bullshitter.
Yeah. He would just like sneak away before they could get him to like save their town or whatever.
Right. As long as you never go back to the same town, you're good to go.
Yeah. So, but when he went to Vogler, he ran into Ispin, Brecklin, and Cudgel. And maybe they convinced him to go with them to actually like prove, like help them or whatever. And when he went, he just kind of like accidentally or luckily convinced everyone that he was actually a competent adventurer. So when he left, he kept telling the story about that time, but he left out everyone else.
So for the bard angle, it sounds like you're close to maybe Chris's character of All Robin, where it wasn't music based, it was just like oratory based. Is that correct, or did you actually like?
So I want to go College of Dance.
Okay.
Very much like a monk.
The brand new subclass for 2024.
Yeah. Doesn't carry weapons, no armor. He dresses like one of those little bullfighter jackets, no shirt underneath,
Have a dance on.
and parachute pants. Yeah.
Aladdin. He sounds like Aladdin.
That's like Aladdin. Just
Get your little monkey as a sidekick.
Yeah.
I spent all my starting gold on noble clothes,
Nice.
so I look fancy.
Lean into the charlatan. How do we want to do the bard magical ability thing, similar to Dory's situation, where all magic is either tied to wizarding talent, and thus, if you could angle it as like a renegade, like you're like, no, I've got magical ability, I just learned it from somebody, and I straight up don't want to be part of the mages of high sorcery. In which case, you would intrinsically know that you are incurring some risk upon yourself by using magic and not being a part of that organization, basically. Or you can be a part of that organization, or we can do like what Ellowyn is doing, which is you become tied to a god, and that's where you get your magical talent. So before this, you were just you didn't have any magic power, even though you still had all your whatever skills and talents and stuff.
Did you pick a god, Dory? Is it Branchala?
No, I picked Cere.
Okay.
Like excitement and passion. And
I was thinking Branchala because that's like the bard god. I hadn't thought about Renegade. I don't know if that would like mess up the campaign or something.
No, it wouldn't mess anything up at all. It would add an interesting wrinkle I could play with, but only if you want to go that route. But if you want to go the god route, we could certainly do that. I'm actually impressed by how many people want to be tied to the god stuff here. But yeah, we still have the literal god of music, poetry, and inner beauty of all living things.
Yeah, let's go with that then. Branchala.
Okay. Put you down for the divine magic one. The name was Korl.
Is that a Walking Dead reference?
Korl.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, really? I wasn't gonna make the joke, but I heard that. I was like,
Wait, now I'm gonna hear that every time.
Korl. Well, now we need somebody to whip us up a meme as soon as we get the. I guess we need to get the original art in, but that'll be
First step
fantastic.
next.
Do you have, or you already give me the traits? Do we have a quirk also? I don't remember.
Oh, so what I rolled was bloodthirsty. In violence.
Doesn't seem to fit.
Thinking maybe like starts a fight and then runs away or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Turns out you actually really like violence.
See, I like the idea, and I'm not trying to change your character. I like the idea that where you were saying that you're insecure and that you've been trying to prove yourself to everybody, is that you like are probably like a reasonable adventurer, but because you think you should be better, like it always. But that's not. I don't think that's as entertaining, maybe. But like I like that idea of like you actually are acceptable, but you're constantly trying to outdo yourself. So you lie.
Yeah, that kind of tracks.
Like Ellowyn does. Plagiarism.
Okay. I like it. Korl. Marcus, have we given you enough time to peruse the character sheet and figure out what we still need in this party?
Yes, I believe I have this figured out. So I will be playing a barbarian as well.
Okay.
His name is very simple. His name is Bherg.
Bherg.
ERG or
I
URG?
like Bherg.
Bherg.
I will share it in a second, then you can see the spell. Go. Okay, tell us about Bherg.
Okay. Yeah. Bherg's a pretty big guy. Human, but kind of dullish brown red skin. About 6'7". Kind of salt pepper hair, or going on the gray side. Uh, he lives in the plains of Krynn and is mostly a solitary individual. Um, Still working through kind of some of the specifics, but I do know that for his traits, where did I have him at? Where are they at? Right here. His personality traits. They are calculating, glutton, quasi-taciturn, heretical, and clumsy.
Oh my gosh.
It makes
So you're not a divine person.
Oh no, he is very not divine.
Yeah.
Very not divine indeed. Um, I kind of think his whole outlook on life is things are going back to how they should be. Of course, we'll see how things go once the plot drops.
I like
But
this angle. From all these characters we connected to gods, I like somebody's like, fuck the gods. We're better off without them. I was waiting
yeah,
for somebody to
and
have this character.
from what I've read, uh, half ogres are a thing in this setting, but they're not looked kindly upon from what I've read so far. Definitely nowhere near extensive as some of our other players have knowledge of, but it seems like ogres are kind of got the short stick by being made by an evil deity, and of course, you know, protagonists will be protagonists, and ogres lost pretty bad long time ago. Um, so I'm thinking Bherg probably has some ogre heritage somewhere down the line, hence how big he is with his weird coloration. Um, and I want to say that maybe his parents, um, he has vague memories of his mother raising him, no father. His mother, of course, was very large as well, very strange colored skin. Um, and at a certain point, she was like, "Hey, you're a man now. Get out. Figure it out. You got this." Um, and he's just kind of been wandering, I think. Um, his alignment is neutral. So he's a pretty self-serving individual.
Mm.
He's not evil, but, Bherg needs what Bherg needs. Um, but I definitely didn't want to play him as a traditional, dumb barbarian hit stuff. He definitely can do that, but his stats are, of course, his strength and constitution, not very dexterous, not very book smart, living in the wilderness most of your life. But he's pretty wise, and he's, pretty charismatic as well. Well, I say pretty, normally normal human levels of charismatic. Um, and yeah, I think he's mostly going to kind of come out as the play goes along. I don't really have, everything hashed out. I think, he'll develop as a character kind of as we go along.
Yeah.
See kind of how he interacts with everybody else.
Okay.
For his quirk, um, he loves small animals. He's the big guy with the chihuahua or chihuahua dad. That's him. Or I don't know if that's awesome to say, but small animals, he loves them.
So Minsk from the
Ah,
Forgotten Realms with the, although he was a ranger, I believe, but had the giant miniature space hamster. Do we have all of our characters? So as a quick recap, we have
my words.
Okay, words for
Dargal.
Dargal, thank you. I'm like a teacher on the first day of school. I gotta learn everybody's names. All right,
There's only 25 of us. It's no big deal. So obnoxious, excitable, nimble, surprisingly dexterous for a big dude, empathetic, and needy.
Okay, I like everybody inserted like at least one like negative trait in there. I respect it. We have Cere, the dwarf cleric. We have Elyas, the human wizard. We have Pi, the gnome ranger, I believe our only gnome. We have Ellowyn Eloquent, the kender bard. We have Kazra Shieldbinder, the human fighter. We have Dargal the Slim, our human barbarian. We have Rickard Ormond, our human fighter / wizard, only multi-class, although it's only level 2. Korl Flatstone, our dwarf bard. And Bherg, our human barbarian. And you guys did a great job of splitting up fairly evenly between our 3 different preludes. Does anybody have, and keep in mind we can still wrap some stuff up, but I would love to get these prelude and go ahead and run these preludes right here. If everybody's got their sheet at least enough to where they can roll a skill check if they want to. Does anybody have any questions when it comes to the Roll20 sheet that we can clear up? And keep in mind, if it's technical stuff, we can always do it, over Discord or something. But if we do have anything that we need to go over or something while we're all here, then please let me know before I go ahead and jump into the preludes.
I have my rolls listed as automatic. I don't know what that means yet, but we'll find out.
So what that should do is if you
I have a condition.
If you were to have a condition such as poisoned, then if you have automatic selected, it should automatically give you disadvantage when you roll while you have the poison condition, in theory, if it works correctly. If you take it off automatic, then you basically tell it to either always roll advantage, always roll disadvantage, or to ask you which one to roll. So if the sheet does work and you remember to update your conditions or your exhaustion level, well, no, exhaustion is modifier, isn't it? In 2024, I think. Which maybe that
for each one.
Maybe that works too, actually. We'll have to test all this because this is all new for me also, technically.
That's why I'm saying it out loud, is that I've got it on automatic. I'm going to test this shit and see what happens.
Yeah. So that'll be the exciting thing. Again, for this campaign, the purpose is your initiative is a -3.
My AC with a shield is 12.
Oh, dear. My goodness.
I forgot to mention, I think in this part of it, because I said it earlier, but yeah, when I rolled my stats, I rolled a 4 for one of them, and it's in Dex. So she has a splint and a heavy limp.
Literally cannot move around very well.
Oh,
I respect the hell out of it, of giving somebody like a really nasty stat and putting it in arguably one of the most important stats in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It's your AC, it's your initiative, it's your tech saves. It's so important.
If I don't make it out of the prelude, we knew it was a mistake.
Hey, if Bond can survive, then anybody can survive in the campaign.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we can go ahead and run these preludes. As I mentioned, they are primarily story-based with some slight interactivity in there, and then I'm going to be dividing up. I'm actually a little bit surprised. I maybe shouldn't have mentioned the town yet, because so many of you were actually like already in the town or from the town, and the preludes kind of assume you're all having to travel to the town. So let's just say for whatever reason at the moment you received this message, you were actually out of town. You don't have to be that far away. You know, it'd be across the country or anything. You could just be like in the next town over, but you are traveling back to Vogler. That way I don't have to rewrite things in a panic, but everybody is en route. It's up to you all whether any of you know each other already or have any connections to one another. These preludes are going to, like I said, divide you based on your backgrounds. So one prelude is going to, if I got this right, has Cere, Ellowyn, Dargal, and Korl in it because they're all tied to gods in some way. Another background will have Elyas and Rickard in there because they are interested in the Mages of High Sorcery faction. And then the other prelude are going to have Pi, Kazra, and Bherg because they don't have any specific connections to magic, but you have a very important prelude to play regardless. All right, so if that's correct, then I've got everybody's stuff divided up. And again, you all can be either traveling with each other or separate. It's kind of malleable depending on that. So we will start with the Broken Silence Prelude. So this is specifically, as I mentioned, just for Cere, Ellowyn, Dargal, and Korl. On the last night of travel, before reaching Vogler, again, you were away for whatever reason. You've already received the message, by the way. I did kind of do that at the very beginning of the session, but you received the message from Becklin. So you know to travel there to attend Ispin's funeral. You experience a vivid dream. You're standing in a forest clearing, surrounded by bloody bodies. Armored knights, robed wizards, and poorly equipped militia alike. You hear screams and growls nearby. You glance down and see a certain object on one of the bodies. The corpse's eyes stare at the sky as a large shadow passes overhead. A wave of fear, unlike anything you've ever felt, wrecks your body as you behold a creature you've only seen from paintings and ancient texts, a red dragon. As it closes in, you spot it has a rider, a knight, dressed in black. She has short white hair, and one of her eyes glows with blinding red light as she spots you. You awaken to find your camp has been ransacked, with an obvious trail that leads to your belongings, and it appears that nothing is missing. However, among your belongings is that object you saw in your dreams. And I'm going to ask each of you to describe what this object is, and I will go ahead and tell you that this object will have great importance to your character. Cere, let's start with you. What is this object?
Oh, is it an object I've already had or one I'm not familiar with?
We could go either way with that, actually. But for whatever reason, if it's one that you've already had, then you sense something different about it, or it can be something you've never seen before. Whatever would have the most importance to your character as a source of divine inspiration.
No pressure.
There's no wrong answer, but
can you give me just like a small list of ideas, maybe?
Someone else.
Well, the default I was going to
know?
go with would be some kind of amulet with the symbol of your god on it.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of what I was imagining too. It was like a necklace with a forging hammer.
Yeah, perfect.
That's sitting on top of her. So one of her important things is a. Oh, nuts! I'm not sure if I know where to find it in this thing. Is a an herbalist notebook that she got from her mama's mama. And so it's just laying on top of that book, right? She reviews that book every day. She looks through it all the time.
Okay.
And it's a forging hammer necklace.
Ellowyn, what do you see? What is your object?
I I think it is an object that she uses every day. It's something she already has, but there'll be a slight change to it. Ellowyn wears a crossbody. She has fashioned a giant journal, leather-bound book with like a satchel strap. So she can just very easily, like almost like a photographer whips up the camera, she like whips up the book because she's always writing things in it. When she goes to put the book on and put the crossbody strap on, she notices in the leather has now emblazoned a set of like multiple flames that have literally been seared into the leather of the cover.
Excellent. Dargal, what object?
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, you guys. Okay. Yeah. You're good at this. Pick those two to go before me. Yeah, totally do that. Okay, so I think Dargal like wanders his way to find his stuff, and he's like a little bit hungover, and he's like, "What the fuck's this bullshit?" And then finds the stuff all messed up, starts picking it up, picks up his backpack, and something kind of like thuds to the ground, and he looks, and I was like, "That sounds heavy." And he looks down. He's under this tree, and there's a bunch of acorns on the ground. One of them's kind of shiny. And he picks up the acorn. It's like slightly split open, and the inside is like silver or something.
Okay.
Cool.
That's what he finds.
Silver acorn. We can work with that.
The tree of something. I don't know what it's.
Is this Zylvan we're going with? Zivillian?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. And then Korl, what do you see as your holy symbol?
As he goes to pick up all of his stuff, he sees something shiny underneath his bag. Looks, it's a golden flute. And he thinks somebody else left it. Stuffs it in his bag before.
No.
Excellent.
That's what I was going to say about the forging hammer necklace, is that Cere believes that Korl left it for her.
As you all take your object back up, you feel a sense of calm purpose wash over you. You look back up and you see the entrance to a small ruined temple that wasn't there just moments ago. And the inside is mostly empty, save for a massive tree that grows up in the middle, piercing the roof. Surrounding it are dozens of statues in various states of ruin. And I would like all four of you to give me a religion check.
Sorry, notes.
Don't know if that did anything. I don't know why. Oh, I've got mine set with advantage, I guess.
Working.
I don't know why mine's set to go with advantage and nobody else's is. That's weird.
We can count the 14.
My character gets advantage the whole time.
Yeah, just automatic. That's what automatic means.
Up at the top, you can click the down arrow and change it from like automatic.
Oh, that was. You're right. I was messing around with the character sheet. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Dargal and Korl, you can have inspiration for recognizing all of the gods in the Krynn pantheon are represented here, but they're all in various states of disrepair. Actually, I'll have to turn off dynamic lighting on this map. I think is the easiest thing to do. I actually have a map. Obviously, we don't have tokens, so it's just for looking at a map purposes. But this is from Tessa's Maps. Some of you may have heard of this particular cartographer who makes a lot of awesome maps for a lot of official 5e campaigns and then puts them up on like the DM's Guild and on Roll20 and stuff. So for this map purpose, we're just looking at this right-hand map right here with the statues and stuff, but we're not using it as an actual battle map, just kind of a cool map that we've got there. After several moments, you see the statues are very, very slowly rebuilding themselves as if by invisible hands. Most of the statues aren't even recognizable, hence the religion check required to see what they were, save one, which appears almost completely intact. A powerful human warrior with long black hair, her armor emblazoned with the symbol of 5 dragon claws, representing each of the chromatic dragons that are her children. Each of you are in this space together, so the 4 of you can see each other in this temple and see this happening. And each of you hear a voice that calls to you from a different statue. And as you hear this voice, the object that you had disappears from your hand or from your body, wherever it was, and appears in the crumbled hand of what you now recognize as your god's statue. And you can see that even though the statue is mostly ruined, the parts of it that were gone are now filled in with this spectral light, and it really depends on what your god is, and that is what it appears. So for Cere, you'll probably just see this flame, almost like a fire elemental, kind of filling in the empty spaces. For example, Zavilian is probably branches and just like bark skin and stuff as these kind of spectral versions of these gods appear, and they've got your object and they are holding it. And each of them speak to you privately in your minds. So for Cere, you see Riorx, who's there in all of his dwarf glory. And he says, "I built this world nice and sturdy. It could survive anything, even without us. But she's back. And that ain't fair to you mortals." And then Syrian would say something like, "A world without gods is without inspiration, beauty, passion. We need to light a fire under everyone's asses, force them to action." Branshala would say, "This world lacks beauty, music, body language. It is not enough to survive. You must thrive, even amongst the darkness that approaches." And Zavilian would say something like, "Knowledge, the wisdom of the trees forgotten, no patience. Maybe we need some excitement, some rage." And then you see their forms begin to shimmer and fade and collapse. But as they do, their spectral forms transfer into your object that they are holding. And the words are now starting to be broken up and says, "World is danger. Queen marches. Take power. Herald of the gods. Save." And then their radiance is completely gone, and all that's left is that object that is now radiating with divine power. As you retake your objects, the temple around you fades away. And it's up to you on whether or not you are all still together or whether you all want to be separated after that. I haven't thought about that for knowing we'd have this many players tied to each other. But that could be an interesting thing, whether you all know that you were each called or whether that would be a separate thing for each of you. But I do like the fact that regardless if you're together now, you all probably saw and would recognize each other as having experienced this phenomenon, which you would intrinsically know this is a miraculous event.
We've gotten to where we were supposed to be going, or are we just on our way there?
You're like a day away from getting to Vogler.
Okay. Is there a mechanic where we all sort of bump into each other later, right? At the
you would all bump into each other. I'm saying you can either, if you want to have some of you meet each other before, you can. Otherwise, you will all meet in town, basically, is where you're all gathering together anyway.
Personally, I like the idea of maybe we experience this separately on our travels, but we all saw each other inside the place at the same time, not knowing each other. And then as we make it to, is it Vogel? Maybe we see each other and it's like the crowd separates for half a second and we make eye contact with them. And like, it's like that immediate, but I'm not saying that's the way we need to do it, but that's probably my first instinct.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah. So you all still don't know each other technically, but you would recognize that you saw each other during that event. So it allows you to have an interesting connection amongst each other, even though you don't know each other personally. It's like, hey, you were at that conference. I was at that conference.
Yeah.
We're all going to get to this wedding and be like, hey, you, because everybody's going to know each other.
It's a funeral, but yeah. All right, so that is the Broken Silence Prelude. I guess I could have, let's see. It is, so this is an example. Oops, can I show? This would be if nobody picked Kiri Jolith, I think, who was like the good Minotaur god. But that'd be like an example of how the spectral form kind of fills in the statue. Cool. Yeah.
I want to see mine now.
I know. Yeah. The art only has one per. So I tried to give you a description for that one. All right. Next, let's do the wizards for the mages of high sorcery, Elyas and Rickard. This one is going to require both of you to be at the same location. However, you don't have to know each other. Again, you can just happen to meet at this same location. But on your journey to Vogler, you both arrive at the Barb, which is a half-ruined spire of gray stone. You were told from your mentor, or perhaps you received a message, or you've just heard in passing, to come to this location to take your first steps toward becoming a mage of high sorcery. Kind of your first, initiation. The Barb is usually a little more than an ancient ruin, which predates the Cataclysm. But you, again, you've heard or you were told to wait until the Night of the Eye, which is when the 3 moons of Krynn align, even though only black-robed wizards can actually even see the black moon of Nuatari. So I'm not quite sure everybody else knows they align, but I guess you just see 2 of them and you're like, all right, that should be good enough. But when they align, which you probably have to make camp there, then soft light shines from the archway. And stepping inside reveals a stone hallway filled with paintings in 3 consecutive sections. The first section is bathed in white and depicts images of the god Solinary, the white moon, protective magic, and divination. And a plaque reads, "To make the world a better place, others before thyself." The next hallway is bathed in red, depicting images of Lunatari, the red moon, and illusory and transformation magic. The plaque reads, "Order, balance, adaptation, a warden against extremes." The final hallway is nearly pitch dark, with equally dark images of Nuatari, the black moon, destruction, and necromancy. The plaque reads, "Power is yours by right. Ambition is thine ascension." The hallway ends in a door. Through the door is a wide rotunda with black stone floors and walls carved with elaborate runes. The interior is empty, save for a single pedestal at the room's center. Atop the pedestal lies an ornate key. Behind you, the door you entered through vanishes. A voice booms out in the common tongue, "Let your magic guide you." You, Elyas and Rickard, see each other, but you appear to have even though you both stepped through the archway, and maybe one after the other or together. I don't know if you want to be chums or you just want to like nod at each other. But you appear alone in the hallway, and then when you stepped in through the door, you're both in the same room, but you're like, if you think of the room as a clock, one of you's at like 9 o'clock and the other at 6 o'clock. So you're at like different ends of this, and it's like 100-foot. It's a huge like amphitheater stadium room, and you see the only thing in this room appears to be a pedestal with a key in the middle. I can even give you an example. What do you do?
How far away is the wall, the pedestal in the middle from the wall?
About 50 feet.
Yeah, head towards the pedestal.
Yeah, move towards the center.
All right, you both walk towards it and smack into an invisible wall.
How far?
You make it about 5 feet. That hurts. I ran it once. I ran into a very, very clean glass door at a hotel when I was a teenager. You know, just running outside and just fucking Looney Tunes my ass into this glass door and just bounced back and landed on my ass. I respect the invisible walls now. Not my best moment.
Can they see each other, or can they not see each other?
You can see each other. Yes.
Okay.
You are both in the same room, and you both see the key, the pedestal. I said we don't have like tokens prepared or anything, but
I'm gonna cast Mage Hand and see if the Mage Hand can travel through the invisible wall, or if it keeps not only corporeal things out but magical things as well.
Okay. When you conjure your Mage Hand and begin to move it around, go ahead and give me an Arcana check as a way of you utilizing your magical talents here. Okay. Rickard, what are you going to do?
I feel like I don't have anything quite as graceful, but seeing him start to cast, I assume that magic is needed.
You did hear the voice ring out, "Let your magic guide you."
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. So I'm gonna do. Trying to pull up the info to read the box, but I think a prestidigitation to try and create an effect on the key to like.
What kind of effect are we trying to do here?
Like to try and like blow it off the pedestal.
Okay. You blow it off the pedestal. So it's a harmless sensory effect. Okay, puff of wind. You create that, and it doesn't seem. I mean, it kind of moves the key a little bit, but you get the feeling that if there was a crowd, they'd be like murmuring right now.
Okay.
Meanwhile, your mage hand, Elyas, is still stymied by the wall, but because of your role, you are able to actually guide it a lot more effectively than you would just being able to like mime your way through. And you realize after a moment that the walls, there are openings in the walls, and
Okay.
as you kind of move your hand around.
All right. Well, as soon as that happens, I'm going to drop my mage hand, and I'm gonna burn a first level spell slot and cast detect magic.
Okay. Now
To
you hear
see
the
where
you
the
hear the crowd
openings
now give
are.
a very light. Wait, I have a sound effect for that, don't we? I was literally gonna say golf clap, and that's what it's called.
And I'm going to use that to find out where the openings are and move through the openings. I guess it's more like a maze type.
Yep.
So,
Yep. You cast detect magic, and you instantly see these invisible walls kind of light up in front of you, and it's a neat effect because detect magic works in an emanation from you. So as you move, it like lights up around you essentially, and as you move, it creates it showcases these openings and allows you to move through the maze, and eventually you can reach the center. And you do detect magic on the key, but you would just know that there's no danger here. And as you, if you don't mind, I'm gonna move you ahead. You grab the key and you disappear. And Rickard, you see this happen.
Okay. Seeing that, he was kind of using magic to navigate through and being more the battle mage blast his way through, he's going to take a step back and cast Burning Hands to light up the area and try and find where the gaps are.
Okay. You light up the area very effectively, and the invisible walls actually do look like they burn from your magical fire, and then it keeps them like lit and burning, almost if they were like turning into a wall of flame, but not a dangerous one to you, just something that has that cool visual quality. And you find that in this place, as you do that, you can actually keep it going and keep that burning hands kind of emanating from you as if it were like a fire hose. And you don't feel any dangerous heat coming out from it necessarily. You feel like this whole thing is like a bowling alley where you put up the gutter things on there for the kids, and for me, because I suck at bowling. So you feel like you can just do this all day and not harm anyone with it, and instead use it to kind of light a path. But give me an Arcana check, because you were not expecting it to sit there and emanate from your hands for this long, and that is throwing you for a loop. Nice. Okay. So you can also navigate via Burning Hands, and you hear the crowd. You still hear some people murmur, but others are doing more of a yeah, like a cheering motion from this, like some fist pumps. So a little more divisive, but you're getting more highs and lows for sure. Both of you can earn a point of inspiration for doing well on your Arcana checks, and Rickard, you make it to the middle of the maze, and you can pick up the key, and as you do, you disappear, and both of you reappear back outside of this whole area, and you now, instead of a key, you are holding a sealed scroll, which looks like this. And that booming voice you heard earlier is now a faint whisper that is slowly declining, and it says, "You have passed the trial, initiate. Take this scroll to your nearest mage." And you feel a odd pause, as if it was searching for the nearest mage, and then it says, "Mage Wyhan of Kalaman." Almost like a different voice, like "Mage Wyhan of Kalaman, to continue your training." I will copy and paste that information for you. So you have passed your initial trials for the Mages of High Sorcery and received a... you can add a sealed scroll to your inventory. Totally up to you whether you want to open a scroll or not. And a message to check out that NPC. All right, for our final prelude, starring Pi, Kazra, and Bherg, this time I am going to ask that all of you you either were traveling together or you are meeting each other sort of right now. But for the purpose of this prelude, you are together for this event. You all are traveling toward Vogler. Again, everybody's going to Vogler. You're about a day or two's travel to the town when you spot a wrecked wagon lying near the road ahead. It is surrounded by armored corpses, and a pair of hulking, cloaked figures pick through the remains. I'm just going to turn off dynamic lighting on all these maps to make it easier. That is what you see, minus the fact that there are two hulking, cloaked figures here. What do you do? And I realize I'm skipping ahead of character introductions or character meetups to make this happen, but you all, again, have either been... You found each other at some point. You were like, hey, we're all heading that direction.
Did they see us coming?
They haven't spotted you at the moment.
Yet.
You're just far enough away where you will have to make basically a decision.
Yeah, say we get off the road and kind of get out of sight for a second.
Kazra just picks up her crossbow and starts shooting.
No. Are you Millie or not Millie?
Wait. Wait.
Wait a minute.
That sounds like Millie.
Remember that character? Never mind.
The best defense.
Throw my shield at him.
The best defense is a good offense, it turns out. No, that is something you can do. Absolutely. So Pi suggests
she has a heavy crossbow, so she's trying to hit them back when she hits them. She has the mastery with the crossbows.
And you're saying that, again, there's a cart in front of us that looks like it's been attacked, and we see two cloaked figures.
Yes.
I think Bherg would slap the crossbow. I mean, if he's next to her, we're all traveling together, I think he would attempt to prevent her from shooting at these people.
Okay. Let's have both of you give me a dexterity check to see who acts first. Who is quick on the uptake here?
I'm clumsy for a reason.
Well, being clumsy might affect you being able to stop somebody from attacking.
Yep.
PvP in the Prelude.
I love it. That's very true. All right, your tanky shield woman is A fucking nat 20. Is that a nat 20 on your very first roll? Wow. All
Yep.
right.
Keep this down.
Well, she's definitely getting this shot off. So you try to make you try to go and basically make a stop for it and realize she has already fired the crossbow. However, I'm going to ask Kazra, you go ahead and give me an attack roll with that crossbow. Okay. Also a killer attack roll. So you fire. Meanwhile, Pi is looking for like a way to lay down in the woods and watch. Bherg makes a move for the crossbow, and Kazra.
I'm trying to shepherd the group over to the side.
No, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Well, you make it sound like I was cowering. And it's
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. You're more like, hey, let's have everybody get over here and get under cover. It was the first one, right? The 19.
19 was the heavy
damage! I see what you're doing.
attack,
Okay.
and the 12
Yeah, so
was the
that
damage.
does hit, and you feel them or you see them get knocked 10 feet over. They immediately snap their heads up, both of these figures, and you see something not human about them when they turn to look at you. They look very monstrous, very reptilian. And in fact, Pi, since you were the more observant one while this was happening, why don't you give me a perception check? Okay. That is good enough to see that these figures appear, you can't believe your eyes, but they look like dragons in human form. Now, you've heard of dragons that can obviously shapeshift into people, and they do that a lot in this world. Well, they used to when dragons existed. But now what you see is like some kind of crazy humanoid dragon hybrid creature. And this is not something you have ever heard of or seen or know that it can exist in this universe. And you see it for a second, and it's that freaky like camera, like, zoom in, focus, and then they turn tail and sprint off.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah, it's startling for sure.
Yeah, that would be straight terrifying.
Oscar's gonna run up and see if there's any survivors.
Okay. While you do that, Bherg, what are you doing?
He's frowning.
As an action, I want to frown.
And he looks over at Pi and kind of gestures his head over towards the cart. Shall we investigate?
Yeah, Pi shrugs his shoulders and goes, "Yep, let's go check it out." And then kind of like goes off behind Karsak.
Yes.
Yeah, not Karsak.
So
Not quite skipping, but when the gnome runs, it looks like it's skipping anyway.
Let's have Kazra give me a medicine check to see if you see any survivors. And then let's have Pi and Bherg, you can either give me, as you kind of investigate the site, you can choose to give me either a history check, an investigation check, or a religion check, as you look over various things and identify certain symbols or armor or any usable notes or anything. With the medicine check, Kazra, you are able to revive a wounded man who does not appear to be a soldier. He wordly identifies himself as Reese, and he says that he worked on a farm not too far, and says that he was merely hired to take care of the horses for these soldiers. He doesn't know anything about. He didn't really ask any questions. You get the feeling he's not the most worldly folk, but he did hear that he kind of overheard the soldiers talking about scouting out some enemy troops supposedly in this area. And then when the ambush happened, he says he heard some kind of growls and screams, and then he was quickly knocked unconscious. So he did not witness much more of that. Let's see. Bherg, we've got an investigation check with a -2, which means you rolled a nat 20 to give me an 18. That's another nat 20 for a roll in the Prelude. Holy crap. Your investigation, Bherg, which you can maybe just disdainfully find. You probably like step forward and just like step on a crumpled note. And you look down and pull it from under your boot, whatever you're wearing on your feet. And you find a note that reveals that these soldiers were investigating reports of farmlands in the area being raided by strange scaled creatures.
What's the other type of check we could do?
Oh, sorry. Religion or history.
I guess they're all the same for me.
My goodness, these rolls have been crazy, y'all. I gotta check these sheets now. These have been nuts.
It's just a +1.
Yeah, they just rolling really good. I mean, look at that -2 up there. The religion check, you identify, your blood goes cold as you identify a torn piece of armor. Ooh, this works perfectly because this was shot off of one of the creatures from Kazra's crossbow bolt. And you see a piece of the armor had been ripped off from the force of the bolt. And you pick it up and see that the armor is emblazoned with the symbol of 5 chromatic dragon claws arranged in a circle. And you recognize that as the symbol of the dragon queen and evil goddess Takisis.
Okay. I share the other 2. Look at this.
This
Yeah, it's armor.
They were the symbol, not the armor.
Oh, the claws? What's that supposed to mean? Is it like some kind of like claw thing or something?
The Dragon Queen.
Okay, who's that? Do I know her?
Is that a music group from the next town over?
But like a drag queen?
That'd be like a punk move, actually, to name your band after like the evil goddess that no longer exists.
Oh,
Yeah.
If that is a bad sign, maybe we should get like these people, like, well, their corpses or the dead things back to town, and they can get buried or something.
There was dirt here. We can bury them here.
That basis is so low, I had a hard time hearing it.
His natural voice is already very baritone.
Yeah, right.
Like, no,
yeah.
I'm
yeah,
going
the bass
deeper.
is so low. Yeah.
We're reaching new depths with this character.
If I have a good headphone, if I have a good microphone, it'd be better. I'm sorry, guys.
I really want to share this handout, even though we didn't quite. I wanted to keep it a little more mysterious from the what you guys were up against, but I love this art, so I'm gonna go ahead and share this with you. But this is a scene from the ambush attack, and in their these creatures in their full glory.
Are you sure you would have shot at that if you'd seen that?
Bherg would
I'm
not
so
have
sure.
stopped them probably if that's what he had seen. I thought it was more like cloaked figures that we couldn't tell the outline of. That's foreboding.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
That is, that's. You probably didn't get the whole gist of it. Probably not even the wings, for example. But you definitely saw something that did not look like a simple like lizard creature or anything that you've seen before. It looked distinctly dragon-like, but still humanoid, which is completely shocking. Now you all have heard these. Maybe one or two of you have even heard rumors about creatures like this. But like somewhere in the distance, like not anywhere near you all. So this would be pretty shocking. But yeah, Reese definitely, he wants to go back to his farm. And he doesn't know these soldiers or really care about them. He's just worried about his own life. He wants to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
You should travel with us. Slightly more protection.
He won't turn that down, actually, if you provide a nice little escort there.
We are taking the food.
All three of you can earn inspiration because of these insane checks that you've all succeeded at. My goodness. I don't think any of you failed a single check in this prelude. All right. And with that, I believe that should get all of you to Vogler at this point. All of you have experienced different events. Some of them supernatural. Some of them with portents of perhaps what's to come. But we will start up with an official session 1 with our next session, with all of you coming together in Vogler. We will return to our player rotation and signups and all that. And make sure for session 1, obviously you want your character sheets all looking nice and pretty with everything plugged in. Level 2, everything in there. And please either give me or put it in Roll20 some kind of art that we can use so we can set up tokens and everything, obviously, for session 1. And then after a couple sessions, we can start firing up some original character art stuff. That is going to do it, I believe, for our session 0, which I really enjoyed doing these preludes. And this was something that is baked into the actual campaign book, did it, which I really think is cool. And especially helped set up the Divine Spellcaster thing and the Ties to the Gods, which is awesome. Obviously, I had to do some cool flavor text and stuff in there and tried to make it a little more personal for some of you. But I really enjoyed the prelude thing, and I like that we could make it a part of session 0 so we'd have as many folks here as possible. But that is going to end this session 0 of Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Thank you so much to Brandon, CT, Dory, Genocider, Jared, Jason, John, Marcus, and Morgan for playing. And thank you to all the patrons for helping make these sessions happen, even though I feel like I just read the credits off. Shout outs to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Genocider, Roleplayer, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F., John L., Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lumpy Spuds, Warden, Eudaimonia LLC, Tom, Dream the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Jerry, Shay, and Matthew. And gold patrons, RPG, Papercraft, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Desert Lounge, Drome, Nathan Fasca, Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. New outro music.
So solemn.
I tried.
In a land before time.